What makes a car truly ugly? It's more than just a bad paint job. It's a design that makes you ask, what were they thinking? In the 1960s, while some cars became classics, others missed the mark, big time. In this video, we'll explore 16 of the ugliest cars from the 60s. These are the cars that turned heads for all the wrong reasons. From bizarre shapes to odd design choices, these vehicles will make you wonder how they ever made it to the road. Stay tuned to see which ones made the list. Number 1. 1960 Edsel Ranger. The 1960 Edsel Ranger is a car that embodies the phrase, less is more, except here, it's less about style and more about confusion. The Ranger featured a design that tried too hard to stand out, with a front grille that looked like a gaping hole rather than a sleek, stylish feature. The car's oddly placed, oversized chrome elements seemed out of place, making it look more like a caricature than a classic. What made it truly ugly was its overall awkward proportions, with a bulky body that didn't flow well with its narrow, almost timid-looking headlights. People joked that the front end looked like it was constantly surprised, maybe because it was surprised anyone would buy it. Despite its best efforts, the Edsel Ranger was more a lesson in what not to do in car design, and it quickly became a symbol of automotive missteps. Price. The 1960 Edsel Ranger was priced at approximately $2,900 when it first hit the market. Number 2. 1960 Ford Falcon. The 1960 Ford Falcon was Ford's attempt to create a compact car for the growing small car market, but its design was far from exciting. The Falcon featured a plain, boxy design with minimal chrome and flat surfaces, which made it look more utilitarian than stylish. The car's small size, combined with its dull appearance, made it seem more like a downsized family car rather than something that would attract attention on the road. Price. The 1960 Ford Falcon was priced at approximately $1,912 to $2,300 depending on the trim level.
Number 3. 1961 Plymouth Valiant. The 1961 Plymouth Valiant was a car that aimed for practicality but landed somewhere far from attractive. Its design featured a sloping roofline and a distinctive front grille that made the car look like it was perpetually frowning. The Valiant was trying to be modern, but it ended up looking more like a science experiment gone wrong. The car's short, stubby profile, combined with its heavy use of chrome, made it look unbalanced and somewhat awkward on the road. Despite its looks, the Valiant did have a strong sales performance, proving that sometimes function wins over form. However, it's still remembered as one of the more unfortunate designs of the 1960s, with some even calling it the car that only its designer could love. Price. The 1961 Plymouth Valiant came with a price tag of around $2,000 to $2,200. Number 4, 1962 Studebaker Lark. The 1962 Studebaker Lark is a classic example of a car trying to be everything to everyone, but ending up as a design disaster. The Lark featured boxy, uninspired lines that made it look more like a refrigerator on wheels than a stylish automobile. Its flat front end combined with large square headlights gave it a stern, almost angry expression, which didn't do it any favors in the looks department. The car's styling was meant to be practical and straightforward, but it came off as bland and outdated even in its time. Consumers found the design too conservative, especially during an era when cars were becoming more dynamic and futuristic. The Lark's lack of flair made it forgettable, and sales reflected the public's indifference. It's a car that didn't just blend into the background, it vanished into it. Price. When the 1962 Studebaker Lark was released, it was priced at approximately $2,200 to $2,500. Number 5. 1963 Mercury Meteor. The 1963 Mercury Meteor was a car that failed to strike the right balance between innovation and appeal. Its design featured a wide, flat front grille that made the car look unusually broad, almost as if it had been stretched out sideways. The Meteor's boxy shape and oversized tail fins were an attempt to make it stand out, but instead, it just looked like it couldn't decide what era it wanted to belong to. Aesthetically, the Meteor was a mishmash of ideas that didn't quite come together, leading to a design that felt more awkward than avant-garde. Despite its attempts to be bold, the car was largely met with indifference, and it didn't take long for it to fade into obscurity. Some joked that the Meteor was more like a falling star, bright for a moment, then quickly forgotten. Price. The 1963 Mercury Meteor was available for around $2,500 to $2,800 at the time of its release. Number 6. 1963 Oldsmobile F85. The 1963 Oldsmobile F85 was designed as a compact car meant to offer both economy and style, but it ended up looking bland and uninspiring. The F85 featured a boxy, almost square design with little in the way of visual excitement. Its plain grille and unadorned sides made it look more like an economy car than something from a brand known for luxury and performance. Price. The 1963 Oldsmobile F85 was priced between $2,300 and $2,800. Number 7. 964 Rambler American. The 1964 Rambler American was a car that prioritized practicality over beauty, but it ended up being neither. Its design was simple, with straight lines and a compact shape, but it lacked any real character or charm. The front end, with its narrow grille and small headlights, gave the car a pinched, almost apologetic appearance. The Rambler American's biggest aesthetic flaw was its complete lack of flair. It was functional, yes, but it was also dull and uninspired, making it hard for the car to stand out in any meaningful way. While it was appreciated for its reliability and affordability, critics and the public alike couldn't help but notice how uninspired its design was. It was the kind of car you bought because you had to, not because you wanted to. Price. The 1964 Rambler American was one of the more affordable cars, with a price of about $1,800 to $2,100. Number 8. 1965 Chevrolet Corvair. The 1965 Chevrolet Corvair was a car that dared to be different. But sometimes different isn't always better. Its rear-engine design was unique for an American car, giving it a look that was unlike anything else on the road. However, this design choice led to some rather unflattering proportions. The car had an unusually long rear deck and a stubby front, which made it look unbalanced and somewhat awkward. The Corvair's styling was sleek in theory, but in reality it came across as too unconventional for many buyers. The design was polarizing, with some appreciating its boldness while others found it just plain ugly. The car also became infamous due to safety concerns raised in Ralph Nader's book, Unsafe at Any Speed, which highlighted its tendency to lose control. This negative publicity only added to its unattractive image, making the Corvair a car remembered more for its flaws than its features. Price. The 1965 Chevrolet Corvair was priced between $2,100 and $2,500. Number 9. 1966 Dodge Charger. The 1966 Dodge Charger was an attempt to create a bold, fastback muscle car, but its styling choices didn't resonate with everyone. The car's design featured a long, sloping roofline that extended all the way to the back, giving it a somewhat awkward, stretched appearance. The large, flat front grille looked more like a gaping mouth than a sleek front end, which didn't help its case. The Charger's design was intended to be futuristic, but it ended up being too ahead of its time, with a look that confused more than it captivated. Many found the car's proportions odd and its styling heavy-handed. While it had a certain appeal for muscle car enthusiasts, the general public didn't embrace it as warmly, leading to modest sales and a reputation for being an acquired taste. Price. The 1966 Dodge Charger was introduced with a price of approximately $3,100 to $3,500. Number 10. 1967 Ford Thunderbird. The 1967 Ford Thunderbird was a departure from the elegant designs of earlier models, and not in a good way. The car featured a large, angular body with sharp lines that gave it a boxy, cumbersome appearance. The front end was dominated by a wide, imposing grille that looked more like a solid wall than a sleek entryway, making the car appear heavy and ungraceful. The Thunderbird's design choices made it look more like a tank than a luxury car, which was a big step away from the stylish, graceful image the model had previously cultivated. Some joked that the car looked like it was designed with a ruler and a square, with no room for any curves. While it still had its loyal fans, many others were put off by the car's abrupt shift in design, making it a polarizing figure in the Thunderbird lineup. Price. The 1967 Ford Thunderbird was a luxury model, priced around $4,500 to $5,000. Number 11. 1967 Pontiac Tempest. The 1967 Pontiac Tempest aimed to be a mid-sized car with a blend of performance and style, but its design left much to be desired. The Tempest's overall shape was awkward, with a long, flat front and a rear that seemed almost an afterthought. The car's front grille, with its divided look, gave it a somewhat cross-eyed appearance, which did not help its appeal. Price: the 1967 Pontiac Tempest was available for around $2,400 to $3,000. Number 12, 968 AMC Javelin. The 1968 AMC Javelin was a car that tried to capture the spirit of American muscle, but its design didn't quite hit the mark. The Javelin featured a long hood and short rear deck, classic muscle car traits, but the execution left something to be desired. Its wide, flat front end looked almost cartoonish, and the overall shape of the car was more awkward than aggressive. The car's aesthetic shortcomings were a result of trying to stand out in a crowded market, but instead of being distinctive, it just looked a bit off. The Javelin had a certain charm for those who appreciated its quirks, but it wasn't universally loved. Sales were decent, but the car never became the icon that AMC had hoped for, largely due to its polarizing design. Price: the 1968 AMC Javelin was available for around $2,700 to $3,000. Number 13, 1969 Buick Skylark. The 1969 Buick Skylark was a car that attempted to balance elegance with power, but its design choices led to a look that was more awkward than attractive. The Skylark featured a long, wide body with a front grille that seemed to stretch endlessly across its face. The grille's oversized, blocky design, combined with the car's large, round headlights, gave it a heavy, cumbersome appearance that lacked the finesse of other cars in its class. The overall styling was intended to make the Skylark look robust and imposing, but it ended up looking more like a lumbering giant on the road. The car's exaggerated proportions made it difficult for many to see it as anything other than ungainly. While it had its fans, particularly those who appreciated its performance, the Skylark's looks were often criticized, and it never quite achieved the iconic status that Buick had hoped for. Price: the 1969 Buick Skylark was priced at approximately $2,800 to $3,100. Number 14, 1960 Chevrolet Corvair Greenbrier. The 1960 Chevrolet Corvair Greenbrier was an attempt at a forward control van that ended up looking more awkward than appealing. With a flat, boxy front that placed the driver right on top of the steering mechanism, the Greenbrier had a face only a mother could love. The van's bulky, top-heavy appearance, combined with its small wheels, made it look like it could tip over at any moment. The aesthetic issues were compounded by the fact that it was based on the already controversial Corvair platform, known for its handling problems. The Greenbrier's design didn't do much to win over skeptics, and it quickly became another example of a car that tried to be different, but ended up being remembered for all the wrong reasons. Price: the 1960 Chevrolet Corvair Greenbrier had a price of approximately $2,500 to $2,800. Number 15, 1963 Chrysler Turbine Car. The 1963 Chrysler Turbine Car was a bold experiment in automotive design, but its styling left many scratching their heads. The car featured a sleek, futuristic body with sharp lines and a narrow, aggressive front grille. While the turbine car was intended to look cutting-edge, its design came off as cold and uninviting, with a look that seemed more suited to a sci-fi movie than the real world. The car's biggest design flaw was its overly angular shape, which made it look harsh and unapproachable. Despite its advanced technology, the turbine car's appearance didn't win it many fans. It was regarded as more of a novelty than a practical vehicle, and public reactions were mixed. Although it's remembered today as a unique experiment in automotive history, the turbine car's design remains a point of contention, with some appreciating its boldness and others viewing it as a misstep. Price: the 1963 Chrysler Turbine Car wasn't mass-produced for sale, but the estimated cost per unit was around $50,000 due to its experimental technology. Number 16, 1965 AMC Marlin. The 1965 AMC Marlin was designed to be a sporty fastback, but its styling didn't quite hit the mark. The Marlin featured a long, sloping roofline that was meant to give it a sleek, dynamic appearance, but instead it made the car look heavy and awkward. The large, wide rear end gave the car a bulky look, which was at odds with its intended sporty image. The Marlin was marketed as a personal luxury car, but its design left much to be desired. The car's proportions seemed off, with a front end that didn't quite match the back. Despite AMC's efforts to make it a competitor in the fastback segment, the Marlin struggled to find an audience, and its unusual design is often cited as a major reason for its lackluster sales. Price. The 1965 AMC Marlin was priced at approximately $3,100 when it was released. We've taken a look at some of the ugliest cars of the 1960s, from the awkward Corvair to the clunky AMC Marlin. Each of these cars tried to stand out but ended up missing the mark with their odd designs and unusual proportions. What makes them memorable isn't just their functionality, but how they dared to be different, sometimes too different. Now, it's your turn. Which one do you think deserves the title of the ugliest car? Let us know in the comments below.